It's about 6:30 on Tuesday, July 29th, 2025, and I'm out here with the animals. You can see the sheep are buried in the goatweed. The cows are probably not too happy with being in the sun. Right now it's about 97 degrees, 36% humidity, and there's a gentle breeze blowing from the south. So there's a dog that wants to cross the wire. Was too scared to do it. Yeah, so one of the concerns that I have is, are the animals, they don't have any shade or access to shade right now, except for the goatweed. Are the animals heat stressed? And so I'm looking for any signs of heat stress. I'm going to review this video afterwards and look at the animals closely. I'm standing here in the shade right now of my side-by-side. So I'm not seeing cows breathing heavy drool or anything like that coming out of their mouth. It looks like they're perfectly kosher right now. They're perfectly happy. So somebody asked about the goatweed. I made videos about goatweed several times. Hey, back! The dogs were chasing the cows away from the water. As soon as I leave, that'll probably go back to normal. Sorry about that. Yeah, you want to get hurt, dog. I'm going to keep my eye on that dog. They're getting ideas that maybe they can stand up to the cows. Well, the cows won't let them know. You know. Anyway. So, one of the signs... Oh, the goatweed. I was talking about goatweed until the dog started barking at a cow. So the animals don't eat the goatweed very much, if at all. It does kind of take over your fields. As you can see here, we're basically swimming in goatweed. And it's annoying. And the question is the goatweed preventing grass from growing, right? And there's people out there that they say the goatweed's sucking up the moisture that the grass could have used. But if you look at the goatweed right now, it looks like it's actually not doing that well. The leaves are curled up. It's showing signs that it's not getting enough water. And in my experience, the goatweed doesn't put roots down deep enough to compete with the Bermuda grass and some of the other grasses too. So if we get, a little bit of a drought, like let's say a whole month of no rain, the goatweed will probably just die. But we've been getting rain off and on. We'll probably get rain this weekend too, just enough to get the ground a little bit wet. But so the goatweed continues. I don't really see the harm in goatweed. Another thing the goatweed does is I think it creates a cool layer close to the ground, keeps the ground cool, which helps the grass to grow a little bit more, especially in the sunlight. The sunlight can be quite brutal when it hits the ground. But as you can see here, there's like a goatweed layer, then there's a grass layer, and then there's the ground underneath. And so the grass is a little bit cooler. I think it also helps to preserve the moisture downstairs. So remember back in the middle of a drought, I dug into the goatweed, and not only did I see grass, but I saw damp soil. So the goatweed was somehow maintaining moisture in the soil. So I'm not one of those people that, if I see a plant that I don't understand or I don't like, my instinct is to eliminate it. I want to learn about why nature has that particular plant and what role it serves. My experience is that plants tend to change the environment they live in such that they don't really do well after they've had their go. In this case, I'm kind of referring to that there's like a natural cycle that when you disturb the soil, first a bunch of weeds come in, then grass comes in, and then finally trees will start to grow after several years. So the goatweed are an indication maybe I'm grazing too much, maybe I'm taking too much. Another thing, I was watching this video, it was a recording, I think, from 2 years ago of the Greg Judy Grazing School where they had Ian Mitchell Innes or McGinnis, I'm not really sure what his name is. He's from South Africa, and he was trying to explain like how to ensure optimum growth, like how to provide enough nutrients to your animals so they perform like you need them to. And one of the points that he made was that you probably don't want to have your calves in the spring lush, but maybe a few months after that. The last 2 months of that calf growing in the womb that sheep was calling for a lamb. But those last 2 months is when they need the most nutrients. And so maybe we should target, mid-April is when the grass really takes off here in this particular part of the country. And so maybe mid-April all the way to mid-June, we have the animals foraging on succulent grass. And then we have the calves drop in mid-June. Okay, so I'm thinking of maybe adjusting my calf schedule to be later in the year. Now, in order to hit June, I need to put the calves on, or the bulls on, in August and September. And one of the concerns was that if it's too hot, the bulls won't breed. I don't think we're the hottest part of this country, but the southern part of the country is generally hotter and humider, muggier, just more difficult in the summertime. I think, honestly, here in Northeast Texas, we're kind of in a sweet spot because we have that Gulf breeze that blows up from the south, which I'm experiencing right now, which to me kind of cools everything off a little bit, makes it a little bit more bearable. It's when you get inland that you get extreme humidity and heat and things get really bad. And so anyway, to solve the problem of the bulls not breeding in the heat of summer, the answer is you get bulls that do. Like the South Pole bull is supposed to be able to breed in the heat of summer. So if I can solve that problem and then have the calves in June, that might be just the ideal situation for maximum growth. Another thing that Ian McInnes, or Mitchell Ennis, again, I'm sorry, but don't know his last name, but he explained that colostrum is critical to the growth of the animal, like the entire life cycle of the animal. If the animal misses out on colostrum when it's first born, the animal's never going to perform. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't really recover from poor colostrum. And so if your animals are fat and satiated with sweet, fresh growth, lots of protein and everything else, when the calves are born, they're going to get the optimal chance to get the best colostrum possible, right? And so that's another benefit of calving a little later in late spring, 2 months after spring starts. So that's another reason why I think I might do it. And something else he explained too is he kind of said some naughty words against the total grazing people. His point was that the ground is more important than the animals, right? And he made a point. He said, like, look, if you don't have enough animals, and some of the animals are not performing well, you probably don't want to sell them. Use them to help develop the ground, right? Having them eat the grass and manure and all that kind of stuff is really beneficial. But when you do tip grazing, when you go in and do the selective grazing, let the cows eat what they want, the sheep what they want, and then move them before they can take a second bite, you're leaving a lot of stuff behind, and you're optimizing the recovery of the grass. The grass should recover more quickly. And as a bonus, the soil should regenerate quicker, right? And the problem that you run into with total grazing could be that you take all the grass and you leave behind just like, bare dirt, bare ground. If it's a drought, if it's the beginning of a drought, it could be years before that area recovers. So that's why I try to leave my grass in a very vegetative state. Let me just show you what it looks like where I came from. So that's where they were 3.5 days ago. And, the rest of the row is pretty much similar. One thing I noticed was there was parts where the goatweed is thickest. There was a lot of grass there, and then the animals went through and ate all of that grass and left everything else alone. So maybe I just pushed a little bit too hard in that part. But so some of the goatweed has bare ground on it right now. I wonder if the grass under the goatweed is just better tasting, But anyway, that's kind of the strategy that I'm using. I'm not here to tell you whether one way is better or not, because I don't know. But you can tell that Ian and Greg Judy agree on a lot of things. And Greg Judy learned a lot of his ideas from Ian. Now, is Ian the most scientific man in the world? Does he have studies and experiments and data to support everything? No, he doesn't. And his point, I think the most important point in the talk, was that you have to do your own experiments on your ground, your climate, your area, and your cows until you find the sweet spot. And it might take decades to figure it out. But once you do, and you have that regime that works, you still might want to do some experimentation, but you don't want to really make big changes all at once. You want to gradually dial it in, And so he said, if you're deciding to change the breeding date of your animals, only make a 2-week change every year. Don't go more extreme than that. Like, don't change your system too much, because you might make too big of a change and it might hurt your wallet, you know. And if you're a farmer that's struggling, and typically the farmers that are doing well are not going to conferences and asking for advice. If you're a farmer that's struggling and you make a sudden change and that wrecks the money-making aspect of the business, that can put you out of business, right? And so he's like, don't make huge changes, make small changes, you know, small adjustments. You know, if there is something that's beneficial, experiment with it first and then adopt it wholesale. You know, don't just jump into things without thinking too hard about it and without doing experiments and testing. And if you read Gabe Brown's book, that's what he did, is he set aside some of his acreage to do some experiments, and then based on the results of those experiments, he decided to put the rest of the acreage into employment, right? He didn't just jump in with both feet and not run experiments. He kept the business running the way he knew how, and then he made small changes over time. So all good advice. Anyway, this video is long. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and bye-bye.